All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And it's our Friday show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. However, whenever you are listening, it is great to have you part of our mix. If you are watching on YouTube, I should tell you something. I'm not quite as pasty white as I look in this show. A bit, but I mean, this is really... I've tried to turn up the chroma, but I don't want to wear any makeup, so I don't know. My days of wearing makeup have pretty much passed. But anyway, that's the first moment about that. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Kim, how are you today?
Hi, good morning.
You know, we have no producer on board, so you and I have to steer the ship of state.
Uh-oh.
Are you up to the task?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, all right. Well, we will find out.
Kim, how are you?
Looking forward to some help along the way. We have Friday Fabulous Florida that was and is curated by Albert. He did take care of that prior to not being able to be with us today. And, of course, Avila and Shure join us with politics at 11, then at 11:35 Pacific time. The Culture Blaster, Michael Snyder. Much to do. Let's do it. Yeah, I saw that there is a mix of stuff to talk about today. I am so challenged by trying to get everything in. Look at that first super sticker of the night. Or is that a super chat? Of the day, right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the word night, and it made me say
I think
night.
it's a super chat, yeah.
Super chat, Edward Lee for a couple of bucks says, great cat story on KFI last night.
Well, now you might have to tell it here, because I haven't heard the cat story.
I'm that challenged at this moment. I'm trying to remember what cat story it was. I was on KFI last night. I filled in for Mo Kelly, who's their nighttime guy now. And I told a bunch of stories, and one of them was a cat story. I think what Edward is talking about is the way look, I'll just tell you this, and then I'll give you, first of all, a great Whoopi apology, kind of apology adjacent is what she was. And you know how much we love Whoopi. And I did get a good drop out of it, too. You'll listen and you'll tell me where you think they're good drops. But, you know, we love our Whoopi drops because she is, she apologizes probably more than, would you say anybody else on the show that we've...
I misspoke.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
that's
My
accurate.
words upset so many people.
Stand corrected.
I stand corrected.
Right, of course. Those are all... And, of course, our favorite is My Bad.
My bad. I'm sorry.
But she kind of steps in it, and then she does a backpedal, and then she realizes, I think this is what's going on, that it looks sort of weak that she's backpedaling, so she leans in again to sort of own the thought, and it's just a mess, and you'll love it. And we'll give it to you in a second. But, Edward, I'll tell you what. I know what story you're talking about. You're talking about the story of how we ended up with 4 cats. And when I say 4 cats, and I'm not going to tell the story right this second, okay? But I will tell it. Well, I'll do whatever Kim wants. Kim's the boss. But I think I'd like to get into the show, and maybe I could tell the story another time. But I do appreciate this. And there's a super sticker for $10 from Deborah B.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, Deborah. Thank you. You know, we're crowdfunded, so we appreciate a Friday. Bringing in a few dollars to the show is not a bad thing. Kathleen Bryant for 20. Huge, big. Dan Ashley, shout out.
Big shout out.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
But I will tell you, and I know it's already, the mockery has begun, huge in Japan, only four cats. So it was in the context of explaining how I ended up with 4 cats and how we in this household have 4 cats that I told the story of the 4th cat. Because the 2 cats I had were just there to ease my pain as the last of the 2 that I originally had passed away. And you know how difficult it is with a dog or a cat or any creature when you have to say goodbye. It's really intense. It's really a wounding kind of moment, and your heart hurts. And so I went to the shelter after the appropriate mourning period, and we got two other cats from the shelter, not older cats, but like full-grown cats pretty much. And then on the way out, my girlfriend at the time said, look at that little kitten, and she was crying so much. She's like a torties, they call them, tortoise cat, that kind of coloring. And she was crying, this poor little cat. I said, okay, let's get the kitten. She said, you've got to get the kitten. She was, like virtually really young, like in the first month or so of life. So we, JR, four amateurs. Tell it now, they're saying. Tell the story now. All right, let's go. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let Kim watch the chat so I can just focus it. But so we had three cats. Okay, I had my girlfriend at the time wanted that kitten. We got it, so it's three cats. That's how I had three for years. I had three. Okay, and it was fine. And they're all together, and they all come in at once, so they kind of work out territory and stuff. One boy, Charlie, Frenchie, and Moki are the girls. So one night, I'm coming home from the radio station in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and it's 10:30 at night. And I'm coming into my house, the house that burned in the fire, not in the house anymore. But that house had a side entrance with sort of maybe a little kind of shrubbery and stuff around it, that side entrance. And right as I'm going into the side entrance, I hear this little meow, meow, and I look, and there's this little emaciated black cat. And she was young, And I remember that I had seen her months before. She made it up, and I lived way up on the top of a hill. You might call it a mountain. It was 1,100 feet up. It would be like if, a cat ended up on Mount Tam somewhere. You go, what, how did you get up here? Yeah. Right. But anyway, and there's all this construction, and there are coyotes, and I'm just astounded that little cat was. But I remember that she was a visitor to that area months prior. And at the time, I thought, wow, this is extraordinary. I hope that little kitten is going to be okay. I mean, so there she was. She was crying a little bit, just like talking almost, not, and she was emaciated. So I went in the house, I got some cat food. We had three cats, so there was no problem with that. And I brought the food out, and she just devoured it. And then I tried to get her into the house so I could see if she was chipped or what. I really was worried. She was not in the best shape. And I couldn't get her to come in. She was too skittish, which is good, because there are a lot of people who are messed up out there, and then with cats, sometimes, and a black cat particularly can be difficult. So I was in a way, I was glad she wasn't too friendly around people. But I thought the next night, if she's still here and comes up into this area again, I'm going to coax her into the house, and and then I'll be set up, So I did get set up with a temporary litter box and, with a whole plan. And somebody who was going to scan her, that was going to come up with one of those they have a scan wand that they essentially pass over the animal so you can see whether dogs or cats are chipped, tell you what house they came from. Next night, I come back from that radio station in LA. It's 10:30 at night, same situation, going through the side door, no cat. And I walk into the door, I'm putting my stuff down, and I'm closing the door, and like some kind of rom-com movie, right as the door is about to close, I mean, it was touching the frame. I hear the meow. And I open the door, and there she is, this emaciated creature again. And I coax her in, this time with the food. I move it just inside the door. And she comes in very tentatively. She comes in. She has that food. I've closed the door behind her. I put her in a bathroom with the litter box. And I spent time there. I sat in there for hours and just tried to get her hydrated and and she's been with us for years. She's great. Wow. Cash is her name, and she was named for Johnny Cash because Courtney
She's
felt
black.
Johnny Cash wears black, and so,
Yeah.
black cat. So that's the story. Again, she did not have a chip, not chipped at all. And by the way, when you foster an animal, like in this case, now he'll be a crazy cat man, 50 cats. When you foster an animal, you kind of get attached to that animal, right? So it's a love affair. And after, I think we got 6 or 7 days in, and Courtney and I were both in love with Cash. And we thought, oh my God, we haven't yet been able to get the person to come up and wand her to check the chip. What do we do when we find out that she belongs to whatever family? And I said, well, we have to get her back to the family. If that,
Right.
and Courtney said, well, look at her. She's emaciated. Look how they're treating her. I said, well, that's not, we don't know that they're treating her that way. She might have been out in the wild for a while. So there was a real moment of drama when we went over with the wand to see if she was chipped, because we would have to say hello. We'd have to break up this love affair, in effect, And, but again, no chip, and Cash has been here and she is the most charming, definitely the most social cat we have. She's magnificent. So that is the story of Cash the cat. Had 3, lost my 15-year-old last year. It's so hard, says Andrea. I want to adopt every cat I see. Guess I need to live on a farm. Yeah, I want to adopt every animal. I mean, I'm a dog, cat. I'd love to have a pig. Pigs are really smart, and they're all animals have this. They're sentient. They're emotional. They feel. All of them. And so I should start. I'm very active with cat rescues, Kelly. Thank you. I'm also very active with animal rescues. When it comes to animals and kids, there's but I think most people are that way too. So that's I think the cat story I was talking about. But it is the love story that continues our relationship with the cats. So.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It is our Friday show. I'll put aside the politics of the moment, some of which involves Ron DeSantis saying he's going to pardon some of the January 6 offenders, those who've been convicted of storming the Capitol. He's saying, essentially, I'll take a meeting on it. So you realize that that's the new song from the hymnal from which they sing.
He said, I'll pardon the January 6th people who've been convicted, and I'll pardon Trump.
Did he threw Trump in there too?
Oh, yeah.
That's strong. That's a strong little elbow on the way out. We'll talk to Shure and Avila about that. Also about the deal that may or may not be coming to raise the debt ceiling. All of that in the 11 o'clock hour when they visit. You saw J.P. Morgan laying off 1,000 First Republic Bank employees. It was a 4-minute scripted phone call. J.P. Morgan took over First Republic Bank. That's the bank we spoke of in San Francisco. And 3 weeks after they acquire the bank, bam, 1,000 of you. Thank you. Sign this, take this, and good luck.
Personal banking, business banking, wealth management at First Republic Bank. It's a privilege to serve you.
That is what Kim used to say when Kim had newscasts sponsored by First Republic, so she still knows the tag.
Yeah.
I love that.
Not going to serve you anymore. They're all fired.
Trump is back to Fox. Speaking of love affairs, Fox wants to have their big town hall. That's right. Hold my beer, says Fox to CNN. Sean Hannity is going to host a Trump town hall.
Oh, God.
However, what will be the difference between this town hall and the CNN town hall? The difference will be this Fox News town hall, which will be Thursday of next week, will be recorded. Yeah, Fox not taking any chances. It will air during Hannity's usual 9 p.m. slot. Hannity, of course, the shadow president, right? Hannity was someone that Fox News not only represented Trump's positions quite aggressively, but Hannity spoke with Trump multiple times each day. A minimum of one call a day, But as we're finding out, there were oftentimes 2 or 3 calls a day. So, he was something of an advisor, really, to the president. That's that, and it's sort of like the sideshow. It is the show that is Trump that'll bring in the numbers, and that's why they're doing it. Now, maybe to some of the news. Well, can I just do the water story, or do you want me to get right to Whoopi? What do you think?
Let's go to Whoopi.
Okay, I still want to get to the water story at some point. Maybe we'll do it next week. When I say the water story, I'll just tell you this in 10 seconds or less. Essentially, the water deal that was made, as you know, we've given up about 13% of our water in California to make this new pact with the western states. The deal is still very much contingent on essentially buying out agricultural interests. They, by far, are the biggest consumers of water in California, as you know. So I like sort of looking at those details because the reality is we've just kicked the can a little bit on water and water problems, and we've kicked the can down the road by buying them out. And that is something that's happening with federal dollars. So more on that story in the days to come. But now, as Kim has requested, I will spend a moment with my pal Whoopi Goldberg.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Whoopi Goldberg is a brilliant talent. I want to say this. I know I have a lot of fun with her, but I think she's a brilliant talent. Now, I don't think she's always funny. I do think she's always a dynamic personality, and she's a strong personality, and she is a brilliant actress. I mean, people lose track of, I think she made a fortune off the Sister Act movies, and she made a fortune when she rebooted Hollywood Squares. She was the executive producer of that reboot. So she's got a fortune, is my point. But back to her acting, she acted with utter virtuosity in The Color Purple. And virtuosity is a ding word. And let's not lose track of that. But now, with that said, let me speak to Whoopi's favorite pastime, and that is apologizing. She does step in it a lot on The View. And to be fair, they're weighing in on a lot of different issues, and she's like a, shoot from the hip kind of person, if you'll pardon the expression, in the United States of guns. But she really does just let it fly, you know what I mean? And when you let it fly, you have to backtrack on things. Sometimes you have a fact wrong. Sometimes, you rethink your position. So on this one, watch as Whoopi says, the downfall of America is this show, American Idol. And I've said it for years. And then she realizes, because she's being told by the producer off camera, that American Idol is an ABC show now. It was on Fox for years. That's when I was the voice of American Idol, right? The announcer. And now it's on ABC. They took the same show over to ABC, right? Ryan Seacrest, the judges. And when she's told that, she does this double clutch move where she kind of goes, well, yeah, it's not, it's different now. I meant the old American Idol. Of course, it's not different at all. But then, and this is the best part, I really want you to watch for this. She realizes that's kind of a weak sort of, I'm sorry, my bad situation. And so now she leans back in and tries to own it again.
My bad. I'm sorry.
So that's what you're going to see. Kim, let's roll it and see if the beats play out. Here we go.
We as a society love to watch stuff to judge folks.
Yes.
That's what, I've always thought that the beginning of the downfall of society was with, what's the name of that show? I always tell you that.
What show's that?
I always tell you.
Well,
so I can't think of it. The one I talk about all the time, but I can't think of what it's called.
No, it was not always on ABC.
No.
No, when it began, it was on another
Fox.
network.
You think the downfall of American side is
Began with,
American Idol?
and I'm going to tell you why. Because once we gave people the ability to judge other people, I think we ran amok with it, and it's gone out of gone out of control. And
They
I
had
think
them before
that's
that. Remember the Gong Show?
Yeah, but I don't remember I don't remember so many
judges.
people being able to do that. There were judges sitting there.
Yeah.
But these are, they invited the public to decide who that person was. And I feel once we did that, it began us in a cycle, which we have not. Did you really just do that?
No, what I'm saying is that we talked about this, that it's gotten better and you like it now. Remember?
That's the producer. He's on.
Yeah.
You like it. ABC, she likes it. ABC.
Well, no, but
loves
again,
it.
when I was
really
watching
good.
it, ABC didn't have it. They have it now. It's a different show.
It is more
It's
positive.
a very different show. The judges are different with the people who are coming. But when it first began, it was a very different.
The public in.
Yes.
And now they're
and
in
I
other
changed.
shows like
and
that.
ABC knows that I feel like this. I've told them. It had nothing to do with them. It had to do with
It
the
was
show.
like the Simon Cowell era.
See, you starting stuff, man.
It is exactly the same show as it was over on Fox. They brought it over with Ryan. They brought it over with the judges. They're always changing the judges out. The judges, some of the same judges from Fox came over to ABC. And the judge, Katy Perry joins the panel. Think of all the judges they had over on Fox. Mariah Carey, Simon Cowell, Randy Jackson, Paula Abdul, Steve Perry. It was, Jennifer Lopez. They're always changing. The format of American Idol on ABC is exactly the same format. It's so funny that she's looking for something. Well, it's totally different now. Is it? And that people judge people all the time, says Randy. You pay to go see this entertainer instead of that entertainer. You interview for a job and either get it or not. Well, I never thought of it that way, Randy, but I guess you're right. Well, the reality is, too, the minute we let regular people judge, isn't that what jury trials are? I don't know. I'm just thinking it is true. We judging people is a favorite pastime. But the whole thing was a mess. The Gong Show was an entertainment thing. There was no people voting on the Gong Show. You had, Murray Langston, the unknown comic, J.P. Morgan, on the Gong Show was just But did you catch the drop that Whoopi served up to us? Here it is. Now listen. You tell me what the drop is that we can use on the show. She always serves up a new drop for us.
As a society, love to watch stuff to judge folks.
Yes.
That's what, I've always thought that the beginning of the downfall of society was with, what's the name of that show? I always tell you that.
There's one. What's the name of that show?
Well, that's it. He was clever. He said ABC's American Idol.
Yeah.
To remind her, hey, it's on our network.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell you that.
ABC's American Idol?
Well,
No.
it was not always on ABC.
No.
No. When it began, it was on another network.
You think the downfall of American side is
Began with, and I'm going to tell you why. Because once we gave people the ability
To judge.
other people, I think we ran amok with it, and it's gone out of gone out of control. And I think that's
that. Remember the Gong Show?
Yeah, but I don't remember I don't remember so many
judges.
people being able to do that. There were judges sitting there. But these are, they invited the public to decide who that person was. And I feel once.
Yeah, the public. The hoi polloi, the public. They invited the public to decide.
We
That's
ran
the
amok
magic.
with it.
The magic of American Idol, the magic of The Voice or whatever, is the public voting. That is the good part. I love that her take is, now that the public can vote.
To decide who that person was. And I feel once we did that, it began us in a cycle, which we have not. Did you really just?
So they're wrapping her up now. Okay, that's what's happening off camera.
It began us in a cycle, which we have not. Did you really just do that?
No, what I'm saying is that we talked about this, that it's gotten better and you like it now. Remember? Yeah.
You like it.
Remember?
ABC, she likes it. ABC.
Well, no, but again,
it.
when I was
really
watching
good.
it, ABC didn't have it. They have it now. It's a different show.
It is more
It's
positive.
a very different show. The judges are different with the people who are coming. But when it first began,
It was
a
phenomenon
very
of inviting
different.
the public in.
Yes.
And now they're in
I
other
changed.
shows like
and
that.
ABC knows
Oh my God.
that I feel like this. I've told them. It had nothing to do with them. It had to do with
It
the
was
show.
Simon Cowell era.
You starting stuff, man.
Yeah, well,
It's about as bad as it can possibly get.
thank you. Simon gets it. I thought there was a hint of
I
desperation
heard a
there
few
at the
drops.
end.
I think
in
there's a
there.
hint of desperation.
No,
I really do.
I agree with you, Simon. What the answer to what drop there is, and you probably think, well, there are a lot of drops in there. Not really. One jumps out, and it's
Did you really just do that?
that is our drop that will be reintegrated and welcomed here on the Mark Thompson Show.
Did you really just do that?
Yes, it's versatile. It's clean. I love it.
Did you really just do that?
Yes, Whoopi, thank you. You provided us a fun moment on the show.
That was so awful, it was beyond description.
Yeah,
If I'm being honest, it was horrible.
yeah. What do you think we're going to say, Whoopi?
What do you think I'm going to say to
You
you?
know, I love the Simon.
No.
Yeah. Now Simon is nice. That's what's happened to this country. The people have gotten angry. The people want to overthrow stuff. The people have gotten violent. America's dangerous now. But Simon Cowell, who was always the truth teller, who gave you the acerbity, the intense.
I'll take that for a ding. Mhm.
Yes, he was he was acerbic. He was always telling you kind of the sour truth about your abilities. He's become nice. It's unbelievable.
It is one of the worst I've ever
He
heard.
doesn't say that stuff anymore. He's all nice now.
I kind of liked it when she said we've run amok with that, and then I also liked when she said, "What show was that?" Because people are always forgetting the names of things.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll take a meeting on that.
Was with what's the name of that show?
What's the name
is
of
that
that
what you
show?
mean?
Yeah. So
What's the
now
name
every
of that
time someone
show?
forgets something, we should play. What's the name
What's
of
the
that
name
show?
of that show?
Yeah, I don't know. It's all right. I'll put it aside.
strong
I don't know.
enough?
I just don't know where I can.
Yeah.
It's not quite as versatile. Maybe it is.
What's
I
the
don't-
name of that show?
I don't know. What was the other one you said you liked?
We've run amok with that.
Oh, that one might work.
Began with, and I'm going to tell you why. Because once we gave people the ability to judge
Once we gave
other
people the
people,
ability to
I
judge
think
others.
we ran amok with it, and it's
Yeah,
I
see
think
how
we
she's
ran
being-
amok with it.
Yeah, but she's being talked over by other people.
Yeah,
This is what
she
you
is.
got
It's
to.
true.
I think we ran amok with it.
Yeah.
I'll put it aside.
too-
But these are the things.
I think we ran amok with it.
I mean, you need. That's
It
why I
needs to be
like the other
cleaner.
one. It's clean.
Yeah.
It's not that. Sadly, it's not always about what the person says. But
Did you really just do that?
So I don't know.
That's
But
pretty
I
good.
put those other two aside for Kim. So we'll see. When we come back, it's Friday Fabulous Florida. It is. Can we have a View and Trump-free day? Yes. In
No.
fact, Monday, Yvonne, will be your Trump and View-free day. Monday, Memorial Day. Trump and View free. Yes. We are dark on Memorial Day. So you have that. Smash the like button like a boss. We have
with your iron rod.
Friday Fabulous Florida. Then we will get into politics, top of the next hour. There's a lot to get to, a real lot to get to today. I also have before Florida, I might just throw in one story of, I think, interest, because it's controversy around the lottery.
Oh.
And I always feel like people like a lottery story and everybody likes controversy. So let me just share that little morsel before we get into Friday Fabulous Florida. But we'll do that after Kim's news.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. I'm looking ahead. Yeah. All right. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, back to discussing the debt yet again. The Speaker of the House says polls show most Americans want the federal government to curb spending. Kevin McCarthy saying the parties are still deadlocked on exactly what to cut as the debt ceiling talks roll on. He said progress is being made, but a major sticking point is over work requirements for social benefit programs. Airlines.
All of a
will
sudden, we
see-
care about what most Americans want. It's interesting that McCarthy all of a sudden cares about that. It's fine. Most Americans want some kind of gun control. We don't do that. Most Americans want women to have choice, to have complete control over their reproductive rights. That's what most Americans want by every poll. You don't pay any attention to that. All of a sudden, you feel that when it comes to spending cuts, that's what most Americans want, and so we ought to pay attention to that.
I love you. Could you just talk all day about that? That's exactly right. Let's go to airlines. Airlines will see about 10 million passengers by the end of the holiday weekend. 10 million. With that amount of people, TSA spokesperson Lisa Farbstein is urging travelers get to the airport at least 2 hours ahead of your scheduled flight. The passengers can do their part by listening to guidance from the TSA officers, since different airports use different technology. And on to money, because Americans believe the average family needs nearly $30,000 more in annual income than they did just a decade ago, only to get by. $30,000 more. A new Gallup poll shows Americans think a minimum of $85,000 is needed, compared to $58,000 in 2013. The Gallup adds the results show the dramatic rise is a sign of economic pressure from high inflation over the last year and still continuing on. So people think they need $85,000 a year minimum to
I mean,
make things
I'm sure
happen.
we do. You do need more money to get by now, don't you think? Yeah.
Absolutely. Does that mean I'm getting a raise? No, maybe not so much. Mark Thompson's
no
benefit
problem with it.
package? No.
I have absolutely no problem with it. Talk to the Patreon audience.
A Russian missile strike on a Ukrainian clinic is responsible for at least 2 deaths. Ukrainian President Zelensky called the attack yet another crime against humanity. Nearly 24 others were injured in that attack. An attack on a medical clinic. It boggles the mind.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is just, there's a scorched earth quality to that entire confrontation right now, which is so deeply disturbing. You know, if this thing ends, when it ends, I mean, I guess everything ends, you just wonder what will be left, you know.
Ford and Tesla are working together to expand access to vehicle charging stations in North America. That's a good thing.
That's a key thing. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about, actually. Yeah.
CEO Jim Farley joining Tesla CEO Elon Musk yesterday to announce beginning next year, Ford EVs will be able to use the Tesla supercharger network. Ford customers will gain access to 12,000 sites in 2024, and they will be getting an adapter that will fit the Tesla V2 superchargers.
Now, let me just mention this, because I think this is really the very essence of the problem with electric vehicles. And we've talked a little bit about it in the past, and we'll talk about it in the future. But the network of charging stations for brands that are not Tesla is not well developed and not well maintained. You just don't have any confidence when you go from here to there, if you're not in a Tesla, that there is going to be a working electric charging station. Now, there may be, and there may be a lot of them, but you just don't know. Tesla has a very well developed and well maintained network of charging stations. So the deal that Ford just made with Tesla is massive for Ford. One of the reasons I have a Tesla is the charging stations. I mean, you know the problems with Musk or whatever, but all these CEOs have got issues if you do that thing. So I put a bit of that aside, and I look at the dependability and the extensive quality of the Tesla network. So if you have now Ford EV owners joining that network, I think that's a huge win for Ford. And for those of us with Teslas, you're now going to be online behind the Ford pickups, the EV
And that's what
pickups.
I was gonna ask you. Does that piss off Tesla owners that now they have more people at the charging stations and they've got to wait longer to get their plug?
You can't be happy about a longer wait. No, I mean, I think it's a good thing for Tesla because they have more demand on their charging stations, right? And it's a good thing for Ford But if you're a Tesla owner like I am, yeah, it's not a good thing. You'll have more people bellying up to the bar and competing for that electricity. It's not there's electricity available, but you do have to wait. And usually there's not a long wait, depending on the time of day. And the other good thing that Tesla has, now we can move on, and I think most of these EVs will have this technology on board if they don't already, is they'll tell you how many of those charging stations are available. I mean, imagine, you have 8 of these things and it'll say 6 are taken, 2 are available. I mean, that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Or, it'll tell you what the wait is for a charge. So, but this is where now the technology of building an electric vehicle is there. The technology of building out the electricity that is required to charge through the network to support the EVs, that's not quite there yet in the way it should be.
I wonder how much Ford paid Tesla for that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to know what that deal is too. That was probably a big deal.
I mean, because that's a pretty big get. So Celine Dion is canceling all tour dates through next year because of health concerns. The singer is dealing with a rare neurological disorder called stiff person syndrome, which she said hinders her from singing the way that she's used to. She wrote on her social media page that she is sorry to disappoint her fans and she's working to rebuild her strength. It's really scary, that stiff person syndrome.
I don't, it's different. Go ahead. What is it?
Your muscles lock up and you can't move.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's just
complete loss of control over your body.
It's funny. There's the scleroderma, which is a hardening of the skin, but it's also a hardening on the inside of your body, so you get the stiffness that you're talking about. But I've been more familiar with that as a disease. This stiffening, this goes from the inside out, right? The muscles and it's so sad. She's such an immensely talented person.
Bank robbers. Yeah. A good Samaritan in California stopped a bank robbery with a hug. Michael Armas was depositing a check at Bank of the West in Sacramento.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah, apparently it did work.
When he noticed a man passing a note to a teller on Monday claiming he had explosives and demanding money. Armas said he recognized the suspect as a former neighbor and a friend of his daughter. So the 69-year-old said he tried to comfort the suspect, who looked distraught, and suggested they go outside to talk.
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
Yeah, that's right. You needed a little Dr. Phil, that's all. You need a little hug and share your feelings.
A little bit of love. Ultimately, the situation ended in a hug. Officers arrived on the scene shortly after and arrested the unarmed suspect for attempted robbery.
Morning.
Hug, little jail.
Morning. I'm glad you're feeling better. If you could put your hands behind your back. Yeah. Make this whole process a little bit smoother.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah. Going to meet Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah. So next time you see a robbery, a little love goes a long way.
Try hugging it out.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Yeah.
This report, or this show, is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you. You can find the Patreon and PayPal links at themarkthompsonshow.com, themarkthompsonshow.com, and we would love your support. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Their envy wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Yeah, we are here on Fridays for a special thing. We call it Friday Fabulous Florida, and
did you really just do that?
I really did. I really did. The story and morsel I want to give you before we get into Friday Fabulous Florida. Kim, if you could just wait for the open before you actually put the slide up there today.
Did you really just do that?
Yeah, Kim, if you could just... No Albert today, no Tony
trying to
today.
produce the show here, people.
Yes, and whoever is producing this thing has no idea.
Has no idea what they're doing.
There is controversy around the lottery, and I did mention it. I wanted to promise to, I tend to tease things, and sometimes I don't pay them off. So, the Powerball winner, you remember him? Edwin Castro.
Oh, the guy from Southern California.
Yeah,
How much did he win? Like a big chunk?
He won $2 billion.
Yeah, and then started buying mansions, right?
Exactly right.
That's not fake. That's real.
That's exactly right. He bought mansions. Kim's right. He bought an $8.5 million place in the Hollywood Hills. And then he bought a $25 million place, remember? Just a few months after that.
Yeah.
Not far from where he bought the winning lottery ticket.
It's fantastic.
It is. I'm sure the $25 million place is fantastic. Edwin Castro is his name. He won the $2 billion in that Powerball lottery draw. We featured it here. He's 30 years old. He is now being sued, everybody. That's right. The allegations are that the ticket that he redeemed for $2 billion, sold in California in November 2022, was, if you guessed stolen, give yourself points. Jose Rivera says that he should receive the prize money. That Castro has used this prize money for a total of $29 million in homes and a vintage Porsche, but it's actually the ticket that belonged to somebody else.
No, I'm going to kick this case right out of court.
Oh.
If you didn't sign the back of it, it's whoever it was in their possession.
All right.
All
right.
That's a novice lottery playing right there.
Jose Rivera has filed a lawsuit claiming that the winning ticket was his, that he's the rightful winner. Rivera says a man named Reggie stole the ticket and refused to return it. Said it was a dud, apparently. Castro and Reggie were named as co-defendants in this suit. Workers at the service center where the ticket was sold said that there was little evidence to support the claims that that ticket was stolen. It seemed legitimate that Castro owned it.
Yeah.
California Lottery has, this is a quote, strict regulations about how they choose a winner. This guy is crazy.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
That is, Judge Judy and Kim would both throw this case out of court. So that's the story on the Powerball.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On Fridays, we check in with the state that always has the weird stuff going on. We call it Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
You may have heard about the Florida man whose right arm was bitten off by a 10-foot alligator.
Yikes.
Yeah, it happened. In Florida's gator-infested waters, the dude who had his arm bitten off by the 10-foot alligator has brushed off losing the limb in the attack. He says, that's not the end of the world.
What?
I want whatever he has. Whatever edible Jordan Rivera is on, that's the one I want. He is the chillest guy in all of the world. He fell into a pond. He's 23 years old. The pond is behind Bandito's Bar in Port Charlotte. You know where that is, just down the street from the Whole Foods and the Publix. Yeah.
Sure.
It was 2 a.m. You know, bad stuff happens around 2 a.m. And Jordan fell into this pond.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah. There he is in the hospital. He said, those gators, I didn't truly understand them until I woke up in the hospital and, oh, gator got your arm.
And now you got the message.
Yeah. They got my elbow, so I don't have an elbow, Rivera said. I can still move my arm around and whatnot, he said. The responding crew treated him with this bite. There is the gator, and had to sadly amputate above the elbow of his upper right arm. Bystanders applied a tourniquet to the patient before Jordan arrived at the Gulf Coast Medical Center in Fort Myers.
You know, he was standing at the edge of that pond peeing when the gator ripped off his arm.
Well, that is it's hard enough to find a place to pee sometime.
Well, apparently the line at the bar was too long inside, so went outside to pee.
Yeah, that's a wild idea.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Well, it worked to relieve the urge, the need, but it didn't work in the apparently, I mean, that gator is 10 and a half feet, as I say. It was euthanized, according to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission.
You know what I don't understand about that isn't the alligator just doing what alligators do?
Of course. This is the thing.
So
we
what do
live
we
alongside
expect?
alligators. I'm supposed to allowed to go into the alligator habitat and do what I want without the alligator chomping me? It's not fair. Rivera says that he doesn't remember the attack itself. He remembers going out back, as Kim says, to pee because the line was long inside the bar. And as I was going over there, something happened where I either tripped or the ground below me just went out. I ended up in the water, and that's literally the last thing I remember.
Did you really just do that?
Yeah. He woke in the hospital, confusion, he said. I was like, whoa, because I just woke up and I was just sitting there. And I looked over and I saw my arm the way it was, and I was like, whoa. That's, he says whoa a lot.
Whoa.
I don't blame him. I'd be saying whoa a lot too.
I was like, whoa, dude, where's my arm?
Yeah. You know what he said to the doctor?
Did you really just do that?
Yeah. That was it. Anyway, I'm glad he made it. Sorry that he loses an arm, and I'm sorry that the alligator loses his life. There is the amputated arm right there. Shark has bitten a Florida angler on a dock. Second incident of the week this week, Kim. It's an epidemic.
What?
A shark has bitten a Florida angler on the foot. Second shark bite incident of the week, according to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. This dude's 35 years old, fishing from a dock on Flagship Drive in Summerlin Key. You know where that is.
Right by the Whole Foods. Yeah.
Whole Foods and Publix in that little shopping area. The shark was reportedly out of the water and on the dock.
What?
When it bit the angler. Wow.
That's not fake. That's real.
The man was flown to Jackson South Medical Center in Miami. You know where that is. It's near the Whole Foods and the Publix. His condition not known. A day earlier, a 20-year-old Miami-Dade County man was bitten by a shark while spearfishing. Maybe these sea creatures have just had enough of this crap. Kevin Blanco diving off the coast of Marathon when a bull shark bit him on the leg. He actually bit me twice, says Kevin Blanco. It was probably anywhere from 9 or 10 feet and 500 pounds, Blanco said. Shark bites in Florida are rare, usually not life-threatening. They advise taking safety precautions if you're headed out into the water or near the water. Florida man crashes his car into, and here is the Florida part, a 14-foot bunny sculpture, everybody.
What?
Yeah. It's the second time that Derek Allen Modruck damages a public artwork. This is reportedly not motivated by his poor driving, but motivated by his dislike of Wilton Manor's late mayor. This is personal animus that this man has, and he's destroying public displays of art as a result.
That's not cool.
I agree. You know what Whoopi said?
Did you really just do that?
In a perplexing case of public art vandalism, police in Wilton Manors, Florida, arrest a man this week after surveillance footage shows him deliberately driving his car into a 14-foot blue bunny sculpture in a local park. We have it up there now. It's not so bad. How could you not like a blue bunny? Camera footage from nearby confirmed that this dude drove his car into the large bunny. The damaged artwork, titled Thunder Bunny, features 30,000 glass tiles that are put together to make this bunny on top of a metal base. It's the work of Hunt Slunham, who's known for these brightly colored depictions of rabbits, butterflies, tropical birds. They've taken shape in the form of paintings and large-scale sculptures. We're showing a few of them now on YouTube. My hope was to uplift the world, the artist said. This isn't the first time one of his works was damaged because of these circumstances. I had a mural at the World Trade Center that was destroyed when the buildings collapsed. That was devastatingly upsetting. Things happen, he says. We're not immune to lots of unusual activities in the world. He's taking it in kind of a good way. But they think that this was fueled by anti-LGBTQ plus bias. But
is the bunny gay?
When officers asked the offender, the guy who drove into the sculpture, his motivation, he explained that he was driven by his dislike for the late mayor of this community, Justin Flippin. He said the park was named after Flippin, and so he doesn't like anything in this park. The artist says he's going to continue his art practice. He will not be held down by this. But he is saddened by this entire incident.
How much do you think that blue bunny is valued at?
That's a great question. I would say it's, I'm going to say it's would you say what, $70,000, maybe $100,000?
That blue bunny, Mark, is valued at $300,000.
Wow, that's very impressive. A Florida man who's 40 years old is behind bars right now as we speak. Why? He left the scene of a crash, and that in itself wouldn't qualify for Friday Fabulous Florida. But it was how he left the scene of the crash that makes it a qualifier this week. He flipped his car in the crash, and then he hailed a taxi to get out of there before the cops arrived. I mean, that is...
Well, how sad is it that the taxi arrived before the cops? Yeah. I mean, what does that say?
You're right. You're right.
Or maybe it happened to be driving by and he just flagged it down. I don't know.
Florida Highway Patrol troopers said that the 40-year-old Carlos Santi was behind the wheel of a blue Cadillac. He slammed into a gray Mini Cooper in Miami-Dade. He was propelled into the concrete barrier wall. It overturned. Pretty big crash. He was chasing his car that was stolen, he said, from a gas station. That's what he told cops. He could not provide a description of the car thief or the gas station that it was taken from. So it didn't, he had some holes in his story. Didn't really seem to have it all worked out.
You do not know what you are talking
Exactly.
about.
There was a quality of that to it. But it was cool that he could get a cab. It's a sign that you can really get a cab in a hurry in Florida. That's kind of cool. A Florida man is accused of stealing endangered tortoises and rare comics.
No.
Worth thousands. Didn't we have this story? I feel like we did this last week. Although this might be a different crew. But this is the guy who was working for the Florida Corrections Department.
Yeah, I think we did have that one.
Is this the same? I hope it's the same guy. Otherwise, it's just like everybody's stealing tortoises down there. So let me just move to the last story. A Florida man has died, my friends, and I'm sorry, it happens. He was working on his roof during a thunderstorm, an electrical storm. Yeah.
Did you really just do that?
Yeah, it's not always the best thing to do. I'm sad for him, don't get me wrong. Please don't let anything about my tone or about the way we're talking about this story in any way suggest that I'm being flip about the loss of life. 24 years old, framing a home in Deltona on Monday afternoon. The thunderstorm moved through, and he was struck by lightning. A lightning bolt hit him, left him stunned. Then he fell through a hole in the roof and passed away. I'll leave the rest of the details aside, but he essentially was melted to death.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. But I can't tell you anything more about it because I think he'll be... it's a little too intense.
What can you tell us about the scene?
I've told you all I can about the scene, Larry. Nothing more. And so we finish with that bizarre piece of Mother Nature. There's a lot of Mother Nature in Friday Fabulous Florida today. We don't like to do it. We don't want to do it. It's like picking between children. But there is a shot of those powerful electrical storms, those thunderstorms that form in Florida. You can see it right now on YouTube if you're watching. Let's quickly review these stories, and we'll pick a favorite. And again, you may have your favorite. Please enter it into the chat now. And if you're watching us in replay, enter it into the chat in replay. I'll remind you of the stories we've just heard. The Florida man who shrugs off losing his arm in the alligator attack. Remember, he had to go out back to pee. Didn't want to wait on that line in the bar. It's not the end of the world, he said. The shark that bites the Florida angler on the foot. Second shark bite incident of the week. The shark was on the dock when he was hooked, reeled up onto the dock, and then he bit the guy on the leg. A Florida man crashed into a 14-foot bunny sculpture. He did it deliberately. He's angry about the former mayor and the fact that the park was named after him. A Florida man has hailed a taxi to get away from the hit and run in which his car completely flipped. And the Florida man who's passed away, sadly, after being struck by lightning while working on the roof. It's still a freak accident, and the freakishness of it qualified it for Friday Fabulous Florida. And I'll also say that the lightning storms in Florida are and tend to be quite ferocious sometimes. And for that reason, it's very Florida as well. Kim, your favorite, please.
This is a really difficult one, but I'm going to go typically with the gator. I have to go with the gator.
The gator that bites the guy's arm off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy thinks it's fine. It's all right.
Yeah, the guy seemed pretty chill about it, which is a really cool way to be. You know, gotta love that.
Morning.
Yeah. It's between, for me, the gator and the guy hailing a taxi to flee from the hit and run.
Yeah, that's pretty strong.
It's so ballsy but, you know, for pure Floridian power, it's the gator. Yeah, it's the gator. Right. It's being asked in the chat, why couldn't they just rehome the gator? Why do they have to euthanize? And that's the question that we always ask. But and I got to say, the shark bite on the dock. Maybe you know what? I'm changing my vote to the the shark bite on the dock, because it's freakish, and I love sharks, and they are endangered in parts of the world. So,
and don't you think though that I don't blame the shark?
Oh, of course not.
The shark was hauled up out of its habitat and fighting for its life.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely right. Shark was actually caught on the line and yanked up onto the dock. Damn right. Damn right. I'm sure he's sorry that he didn't do more damage.
Sayonara, sucker!
Yeah, that's Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Wow. A lot there in Friday Fabulous Florida for today. I will tell you, Kim, and then we spoke of this last night.
Yeah.
We will blast past your news so I can bring on a distinguished and award-winning journalist.
I see that.
And then we'll do a supersized news at the bottom of the hour before the Culture Blaster comes on. Michael talk movies. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
If you like to know the ins and outs of the political world, if you like to know what's happening, we will get into some of that next with the great and award-winning former senior correspondent for ABC News, Jim Avila. So smash that like button. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great.
When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
Did you really just do that?
Yeah, it is our second hour on a Friday. We're so excited to have this guy in. He really is so generous with his time. Kevin Hobbs, by the way, before I get to Avila, Kevin Hobbs, HOF.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Hall of Famer Kevin Hobbs. Speaking of statues, he has a statue, Kevin Hobbs does, in the circular, it's like a cul-de-sac that is in Thompson Terrace. Thompson Terrace goes down, and it's a cul-de-sac. And one of the statues that's there, Andreas has a statue, for example. There are a handful of HOFs. And Kevin Hobbs has one. And thank you for 3333 and the super sticker. Big shout out. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
How about it for Jim Avila, the brilliant former ABC News correspondent who joins us every Friday, and a guy who's forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know, Michael Shure. Michael, we always are grabbing because he's covering rallies and he's covering various political events across the country. And so it's always good when we get the two of you together. You saw that Fox News was, as I was mentioning in the first hour, wants to get back into the Trump business. Sean Hannity is doing a recorded show, town hall, their own town hall, with Donald Trump. It'll be on Hannity's show next week. That's just more of the Trump show, I guess. Right,
yeah,
boys?
It's definitely a show. It's not journalism. As a matter of fact, Sean Hannity, whatever you may think of him, he's not a journalist. I saw him hosting a Ted Cruz rally in the 2018 Senate race. I was down in Houston, and he was the one introducing Cruz and whooping the crowd up. This is somebody who's a fan, and he's clearly a fan of Donald Trump's, as we've seen in several emails and texts that he didn't want us to see. It also makes business sense for Fox because they're losing their hemorrhaging viewers, if we're to believe what we read, and to bring Trump back into their fold, especially going into a year where access to Trump is going to be important because of all the legal troubles he's going to be facing over the course of the next few months. And he is, at least in the polls, the current leader for the nomination for the Republican Party. So it fits.
And I think a lot of the information that come through, Jim, just to Michael's point about Sean Hannity, reflects the fact that he was essentially a White House advisor during the Trump administration.
Right. It's I would say it's one step forward and two steps back. The step forward is that it's on tape; it's not live. The two steps back is that Hannity is the moderator, and that it's going to be just another rally. Michael's correct. Not only was he at Cruz rallies, but Hannity also appeared at Trump rallies on stage, called on stage by Trump. So, as a supporter. So to call this in any way a journalistic endeavor is It's just another rally. It's just on television. At least they'll tape it. So I would imagine. What is interesting is that I'm wondering whether or not they're putting it on tape because they may have learned a little bit of their lesson from Dominion and putting false claims on the air, which Trump is of course going to do about fake elections, could make Fox liable again.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's really good.
If he in fact goes after Jean Carroll and libels her again, is Fox going to be liable because they allowed him to do it on their air? Didn't they learn their lesson? So I think they may be putting it on tape. This is giving Fox more credit than they deserve, but it's possible that they're trying to avoid liability.
It's such a clean take because when you think about it, from a CNN perspective, the comments were, well, look at how CNN let him run. There was no way to curb that dog, essentially, once you let Trump go out live. But your point is quite different, which is the legal liability, the legal stink, which is not just stink and not just a bunch of pundits talking about it after the fact. They're really dollars and cents, and Fox knows that better than anyone. Love that take. What about Ron DeSantis? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, I think that's where you're going, Mark. I mean, I think Fox, just to add one more thing to this conversation, and I think you may have been going there with Ron DeSantis, is that Trump people don't want Fox to be the domain of Ron DeSantis, because like it or not, they get more viewers. They will get more viewers as it goes on from conservatives and Republicans. Their nightly coverage of the election and their results coverage is going to be where a lot of conservatives and Republicans go. So they don't want to cede all that ground to Ron DeSantis.
The DeSantis announcement on Twitter, we talked about it yesterday, was such a mess. But I thought his follow-up with the J6 pardons being held out as a possibility and something that he would review, it puts him in a camp that's an interesting one. And I'm wondering, are more and more people in that camp? Is that the hymnal from which they're all singing now, Jim?
Well, as long as MAGA controls the Republican Party, which they do, and that puts anybody who's going to win the primary in a terrible position, including Ron DeSantis, who is having to move to the right over and over again, because when it's whoever wins that primary, and it's likely to be Donald Trump at this point, unless he gets more legal trouble, they're going to be in a corner. And when it comes to appealing the general election, the Republicans did not do well in the off-year election in 2022 for two reasons: abortion and January 6th. They're not fixing that in any way. And Ron DeSantis has put himself in a terrible hole. He tried to do it quietly, but he signed a 6-week abortion ban. 6 weeks. That's a total abortion ban. Most women don't know they're pregnant within 6 weeks. So that is a no in Florida. So that's going to be a real problem for Ron DeSantis in the general election. And now he's supporting January 6th traitors who have just been told by a judge, 2 of them at least, that they're going to be in prison for many, many years, that he's going to pardon those people. That is not an effective message to independents and the general public.
And it's those independents, Michael Shure, that he has to win over, although not in the primary, I suppose.
Well, not in the primary, but it's hard to backtrack, and the contagion of this abortion stuff on the Republican side, with state by state falling today, a judge in South Carolina saying, well, we're going to put a hold on it. But I don't see how those are going to endure those holds when the wave of conservative legislatures around the country, in several states anyway, is moving that way. This is a party that didn't learn its lesson from the midterms. I mean, abortion was the reason why it's a razor-thin margin in the House, and was not just a cakewalk for the Republicans. So it is a curious thing, but they back themselves into this corner. Republicans always have a very difficult time, and Democrats as well, running one way during a primary and running the other during a general. But abortion is one of those issues that is simply not going to move people. And January 6th, I think, brings people into that hole. It's not like you go from being, let's say, a Democrat who's very in favor of let's say open borders, which doesn't exist, but I want to paint an extreme. And then you get to a general election and they say, no, we got to close the border. We got to do that. It's easier to forgive that than it is to forgive supporting a law that's on the books that affects every woman in America, not just people who are impacted by immigration. So it's a complex thing.
Yeah, and that's the independent part. I mean,
right.
As you say.
That is independent. That's exactly right.
So, as this field begins to sort of take on the texture that was anticipated, which is a lot of people primarying Trump, but Trump really being the most popular guy at the dance, it likely heads toward the kind of conclusion that we anticipate, which is it'll be Biden and Trump at the end of it all.
Yeah, it's a situation nobody really wants, but has no alternative for. The only thing that's going to avoid this, there are only two things that are going to happen. One, Trump is actually put in prison before the election, or that he is so damaged by the January 6th indictments that are to come and may come as soon as somebody was saying today or next week, or something happens to Joe Biden's health. Those are the only two things that are going to stop a Biden-Trump rematch, which nobody, according to the polls, really wants to see, but it seems to be inevitable.
I mean, there is a third thing, which is really, really unlikely, but that a prominent Democrat decides to run against Biden over the summer. And that the poll numbers for the president stay where they are among Democrats, and they see an avenue and they're unforgiving about it. I don't know who that person would be, but you have to, I think, put that into the possibilities list, because as unseemly as it is, I do think that there is a path, at least to have a legitimate chance and not be RFK Jr. and not be Marianne Williamson, but to be a party person. But again, that's a real long shot. And I think what Jim said is the most likely. These people, I think many of them, people run for president so that they get higher name recognition. So 4 years from now, it's what Ronald Reagan did. It's what Bill Clinton did it. People, or he certainly put his hat into a ring. People do it so that they get name recognition down the road. I think in the case of, I guess, George Bush Sr. as well, there are people that are running for that purpose, but in the back of their minds is what Jim painted, which is that Trump could go down, or these indictments could be so strong that state parties don't want to put him on the ballot, which, again, these are long shot things. But that's why some of these people are running for president, because they think that this is a wide open race should Trump not be on the ticket.
It's asked who would be a prominent Democrat at this point. I think that's a fair follow-up. Do you have a couple of names in mind?
Yeah, I mean, certainly governors. I think Gavin Newsom would be one. I don't think he would be the one to do it. I think that Roy Cooper in North Carolina, a Southerner who doesn't have as much to lose by going against the president, who's popular, who's a Democrat, who can maybe promise you a state that you wouldn't otherwise have gotten, which is a rare thing in politics. I think Gretchen Whitmer maybe, though I don't think she would have the success that some of those others would. But, I don't think, it's clearly not going to be the vice president. I don't think somebody like Amy Klobuchar, who is likable and whatnot, she's not a rock the boat person. It has to be somebody who doesn't have a lot to lose in their day job by running. And in that case, it's generally a governor.
I see.
Another name that comes out there that I think is good is Sherrod Brown in Ohio, which of course is a key state. He would be interesting, and
it's an election year for him too.
Yeah, and he's a maverick enough that he could do it. I think the strongest candidate is in fact the California governor, but he is positioning himself, I think, as a spokesman for the progressive wing, and because the other two spokespeople for the progressive wing, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, are getting up there. So I think that that Gavin Newsom is positioning himself to be a big voice on the left, and maybe for the next race, a good candidate.
I'm going to push back a little on what Jim said about the progressive. He's trying to get some progressive support. But the progressives in America don't look at Gavin Newsom in the same way they look at Bernie Sanders or even Elizabeth Warren. So it would be a big gambit for him to try and become that candidate. And as a matter of fact, I think what he wants to do is be able to pull people in a better way from that group and also hang on to moderate Democrats, because he is part still of the Democratic Party, much more so aligning himself with them than the others.
But his statements have been very progressive.
Yep, his policies.
He always talks. He talks progressive, but the progressives feel let down by Newsom in some ways.
In some ways, they do. But he also is the original progressive in many ways. He's the first person to talk about gay marriage. He's the first person to do progressive immigration reform. I mean, so his being right on issues is super important, and progressives need to take note of that on social issues. When it comes to corporations and banks, it starts to veer a little bit.
His biggest problem, of course, is homelessness in California, and that's he's got to. If they're able to do something, and they're starting to try to do it here in Los Angeles, where I live, they are beginning to clean up the streets a bit. It's difficult. It's a terrible problem. And he hasn't gotten it yet, but if they are able to make any dent in this homelessness problem, and he's able to take a victory lap somehow, that will make him a viable candidate.
Yeah, for sure. And his vulnerabilities, there's several. Every candidate has them. I think one vulnerability is that he promised the president that he wouldn't run, or he promised folks that he wouldn't run unless the president didn't. Hard, I think, to backtrack on that and not be seen disfavorably.
The Hillary Clinton interview that she gave this week, I thought was provocative. It wasn't provocative in some ways, but then it was around Dianne Feinstein. We've talked about Dianne Feinstein before. And the part that wasn't provocative around Dianne Feinstein with Hillary Clinton was she suffered greatly from shingles, and, she was reelected by the people of California. And now I'm quoting from the Clinton statement. And they voted for her again not very long ago. And for those reasons, she should remain in office. She's been a remarkable and very effective leader. Okay, I mean, that's what you'd expect to say, and you could certainly disagree with some of that. But recently, in terms of effectiveness. But then she went on to say this, and I wanted to get you guys to weigh in. Here's the dilemma. This is a quote from Hillary Clinton. The Republicans will not agree to add someone else to the Judiciary Committee if she retires. This is, of course, because she's got, a powerful committee membership. Dianne Feinstein does, right? When she was gone, they couldn't get any justices confirmed. Judicial nominees without Republican support. I want you to think about how crummy that is. I don't know in her heart about whether she really would or wouldn't, but right now she can't, because if we're going to get judges confirmed, which is one of the most important continuing obligations that we have, then we cannot afford to have her seat vacant. If Republicans were to say and do the decent thing and say, well, this woman was gravely ill, she had just lost her husband to cancer, of course, we will let you fill this position if she retires, but they won't say that, she continued. So what are we supposed to do? All these people pushing her to retire, fine. We get no more judges? I don't think that's a good trade-off. Your thoughts, Michael?
I mean, I don't necessarily agree. That's a possibility. I don't agree that is what is going to happen. I think that, that you could look at it and you could say, hey, this is not good because if Feinstein isn't there, that seat lays empty. But I don't know that Senate precedent is correct about what Secretary Clinton is saying. And I do think with the majority in the Senate, they'll be able to get somebody onto that committee. I don't think that people are looking at it. I mean, what Hillary Clinton says, we should also say, doesn't really matter. It's interesting fodder. She's a former colleague of Dianne Feinstein's. The Clintons, as we know, are extremely loyal to those who are loyal to them and extremely vindictive to those who are not, which is not atypical of many people in politics. So it's not surprising that she's supporting Feinstein. This reason is to, I think, sow doubt in the people who are pushing Feinstein out. I don't know that that's really what would happen. I guess it's a possibility, but common wisdom says that they'll fill that position.
Jim?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Hillary Clinton is in a position where, she has to be nice to Dianne Feinstein. And, I wish we all could be nice to Dianne Feinstein. She's had a great career and has been a groundbreaker. But for a woman who was the first viable candidate to be president of the United States, to the first female, to come out and try to push Dianne Feinstein out of office would be a very difficult thing to do, and I don't think she can do that. In my opinion, Dianne Feinstein is not really there and should retire. That's the bottom line, and then the Democrats have to fight to replace her, and they do have a lot of power, and they could do that. Is there an outside chance that they can't? I don't think, probably not. So I would go with Michael. I think that they ought to let her go, and she ought to retire gracefully. Maybe it's too late to retire gracefully at this point, but she should retire.
I was really depressed almost by the latest Supreme Court decisions regarding clean water. They really are, the court, so friendly to corporate interests, so friendly to corporate polluters, and so anti-consumer, so anti-habitat. And you realize the critical nature of this court and the coming decisions. I mean, they go well beyond Roe. We tend to focus on Roe because it's important to focus on it, and that really reflected sort of the agenda-driven nature of this court, and also this insanely biased nature of this court. But now you're seeing in some of these other lesser, if you will, I mean, that is, they don't quite rise to the profile, decisions from this court, the way they are so pro-polluter. So I always come back around to the Supreme Court and how big and this is why I bring it up to you guys, from a political standpoint, and you have already said that you think that the abortion situation, the question of choice for women, is going to be a big driver of this election. Can the Democrats keep this front and center, or do you think it automatically defaults to being front and center for them, Jim?
Well, I guess my overall comment on this issue of the Supreme Court is, to all you independents and all you Democrats who did not come out for Hillary Clinton because you didn't like her as a person, this is what you have. This is what's happened, because elections have consequences. And when you didn't come out and vote, you let Donald Trump win, and he packed the court with conservatives. Now we're stuck with it, and we're stuck with it for a while. And it really is damaging the country. Environmental issues are being pushed away. The court is against those. The court is absolutely what you say. It is corporations. Corporations are people, and the Supreme Court, those on the Supreme Court now, just believe that they will rule in favor of corporations over people. They also are going to take away votes from African Americans and minorities by making it more restrictive in how you vote. The Supreme Court has an activist agenda now, and there really isn't anything that can be done about it until they start dying off.
And Republicans are much better at using the Supreme Court as an election, because I think that's part of what you were asking too, Mark, is as an election issue than Democrats. And Democrats knew what Mitch McConnell did with Merrick Garland. They knew what was coming up in 2016 in terms of retirements and possibly deaths, both of which happened. And Donald Trump was able to appoint 3 new members of the Supreme Court. So they could have made that a much bigger political issue. But when you go out with Republicans on the trail, they're talking about it constantly. They're talking about the court. They're talking about the lower courts. They're talking about the being active in that way and making it a campaign issue. For some reason, Democrats don't do that enough. They sort of feel like law is settled law and we can complain about bad rulings. And ironically, this this clean water bill that you were, or case that you were talking about, is not in favor of a corporation, but it's going to be precedent for corporations. This was a couple that wanted to build a house on a lake. I think it was in Idaho or Washington.
It's development, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And so but it is now precedent, and it weakens the EPA, which is of course good for business and corporations. And so these are the kinds of things that can very easily be turned into campaign issues. I mean, this is a slightly more complex even in the way I'm describing it, but there are ways to make it beyond just abortion. And I think that's important for Democrats, and they don't do it enough.
You know, it's interesting. I'm seeing something like this. Brian says, blame the Democratic Party for picking terrible candidates. Blame Ginsburg for not retiring. Blame Ginsburg.
Right,
certainly. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Yeah. I don't know. Go ahead. First you, Michael.
I think that, I understand the emotion behind that text, but it's not as simple as that. Democrats have been, by and large, happy with their candidates. Hillary Clinton was wildly popular, got a lot of votes, was wildly unpopular in some circles too, and lost an election that perhaps a different candidate would have won. We don't know. Or she should have run better. Joe Biden was clear out there, was going to be the person they thought that could beat Donald Trump, and he won for that reason. And now they're not picking a candidate, they're settling for an aging president. But and should Ginsburg have retired? I think probably. I think she should have retired when she got her first bad cancer diagnosis, because it's unfair to the court. But by the same token, that you can run on these issues separately and not blame the people for them, blame the party for not having a message that talks about things that people are really interested in, like the Supreme Court, because we saw last year with Roe v. Wade, with the Dobbs decision, that independents came flocking toward Democrats because of a ruling like that. So it means that there is a way to preach to the people who are going to be electing these people.
I mean, I would just say it's so true on the messaging and Ginsburg, but now the messaging gets a lot easier because the fire is burning so hot, and the problem with that is you've let it turn into a blaze that's burning you. Okay, I get it. Now the messaging is a bit easier. Go ahead.
And
Jim.
the other message that has to get through, that the Democrats, because of all the noise that's going on in Washington now with the economics, with the debt ceiling, but we can't forget gun control. Gun control is a popular issue among independents, among Democrats, among women with children. The Democrats need to run on abortion. They need to run on gun control, 1 and 2, then and then democracy. If they do that, all of those issues poll way over in favor, 60, 70% in favor of the Democratic liberal position. And they got to hammer that home because, and do they have good candidates? I mean, I think they do statewide, and I think in many states they do. Is there a problem because Joe Biden is aging and shows it more and more every day? Yes, there is. But Trump is still a crook, and and I think Biden will still beat him, even though he's going to be limping toward the finish line. And it's a shame that we can't do something about that. I covered Joe Biden. I've known him. I've gone to his house. He's a pleasant, affable guy. Okay. Everybody pretty much likes Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. But somebody's got to stand up and tell him, whisper in his ear, that he's ruining his legacy and he ought to go away as the president he promised he would be. A transitional president who would bring us back to normalcy. And he's done that. And now he ought to bow out and let somebody else take over. Am I dreaming? Yes, I am. That's not going to happen, but I wish it would.
I don't think that it's off the table entirely. I don't think it's 100%. I don't think it's a dream that can't be realized, because I think that there are, the fact that it's discussed even means that there's a possibility of it. It's remote, but a possibility.
Well, we'll certainly discuss it again. Have a good weekend, gentlemen. Thank you. Always appreciate you boys being here. You're very generous with your time on Fridays. Jim Avila, you can find him. Now he's writing a column. I saw you're writing a column on politics and media.
Yeah, Barrett News Media. It's called. If you go to my Twitter, Jim Avila ABC, you'll find it.
Good deal. And of course, you see Michael Shure everywhere. As I say, he's covering rallies, he's covering political races, and regular on TYT. Love that you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. Michael, Jim, thanks. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for crudité.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Use Mark Thompson.
It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Yeah, you know it. Back for the last bit.
Did you really just do that?
I did. I did it, and I'm still going to do it. As promised, we'll do a supersized Kim News, and then I will attempt to continue this show with the Culture Blaster, the man who knows movies and streaming television and music. He's amazing. The breadth of knowledge of Michael Snyder, the writer for the Marina Times. And I will also tell the stations on the Mark Thompson Show network that we will run over today. And we'll run over with magicness, goodness, and greatness.
Did you really just do that?
Yes. Smash the like button like a boss because we have more show for you
Smash it with your iron rod.
than we can even contain in 2 hours.
Smash it with your iron rod.
They say it can't be done, but it is done regularly right here.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Now, without any further delay, although believe me, delaying is something I enjoy doing.
Did you really just do that?
So I'm always tempted to delay more, but now without any further delay, let's get to Kim's news. And then, as I say, the Culture Blast.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you.
Now on the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by the fine people at Tenuta Vineyards.
Come on, Tenuta. I've got your wine up right here, right in the studio, right behind me.
Bring it all. Bring it all
Yeah,
to
kid.
Tenuta Vineyards. That's right. Let's start, though, with Ukraine, because Secretary of State Antony Blinken is now trying to strengthen international support for Ukraine in its defense against Russia. Finland was granted membership into NATO in April, and the U.S. also wants Sweden to join. Turkey and Hungary have been blocking Sweden's bid to do that. Barack Obama is telling people to look at Minnesota as a prime example of why voting actually matters. He says on Twitter that he is celebrating the state's progress in protecting abortion access.
He's 100% right about this. Sorry, continue. Not only abortion access. Minnesota is go ahead. Good week in Minnesota.
Reducing child poverty and passing new gun safety measures.
Exactly.
Which is pretty much what Jim Avila was just talking about. He noted that Democrats took control of the state Senate by 1 seat after winning a race by a little over 300 votes, giving the party control of both legislative chambers and the governor's mansion. Former President Obama said this is a good reminder a small group of people can create change, but only if people vote. Another member of the far-right group, the Oath Keepers, will serve prison time for storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. That is the word today. Jessica Watkins sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for her role in the Capitol riot. The military veteran was convicted of numerous felony counts, including obstructing Congress, interfering with police. She apologized to the court, saying she was ashamed of her conduct. The sentence comes after the Oath Keepers leader, Stuart Rhodes, was sentenced to 18 years in prison. He was found guilty of seditious conspiracy for trying to stop Congress from approving the results of the 2020 election.
I'm going to end up losing weight in prison.
Okay, that's a good goal. At least you can make something of it, you know.
God bless America.
All right.
The end.
Okay, it is the end, yes.
As you were mentioning earlier, Mark, 1,000 First Republic Bank employees are losing their jobs. JP Morgan Chase purchased First Republic after the bank collapsed a few weeks ago. America's largest bank says 85% of First Republic employees will be given full-time or transitional roles. And I know you love this company. Neuralink is receiving approval now from the FDA to conduct its first in-human clinical study of a brain implant. The neurotech startup founded by Elon Musk says this implant could help severe paralysis patients regain their ability to communicate. Patient recruitment for the clinical trial is not yet open.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about inhuman studies, because that's what they mean with humans, essentially. But that company is inhuman in the sense that it is an absolute strike against humanity and humanitarian instincts. What they do to animals in service of this ridiculousness is it's grotesque. And I think what they're doing now with inhuman, meaning with human being experiments, is the way they should go. Great. You want to experiment with people? Do it. It's, after all, what you're going to have to do anyway is move those chips and those electric charges of one sort or another, impulses. You're going to have to move them into human beings. And so why not do that in a safe experimental environment? That I don't have an issue with. But what they're doing with this Frankensteinian awfulness to animals in service of this at Neuralink, it's there is no apology great enough. It is horrible.
Will it have been worth it, all those horrible tests on animals, if Elon Musk is able to get people who are paralyzed to walk again or communicate again?
That is the straw man argument. It is a straw man argument. It's just not applicable. You can do the experiments that we're talking about. You can do the electronic pulses and the interruptions in various nerve passages, the rebuilding of certain nerve passages, even potentially. You can do that with human experimentation. You do not need these animals because for any number of reasons, it's not really an effective laboratory experiment to apply to a human population. It's a straw man argument. I won't even entertain it. It's not legitimate. You can't get people to walk again until you get actual experimentation on people. And there you'll have to do what? You'll have to do things that you're not doing with animals, like use an anesthesia, care about how they feel. You'll have to, whether there's ongoing pain, whether there's pain that's adjacent to the thing that you're actually going for, meaning there are a number of side effects of these various implantations that you don't even know about because the creature that you're experimenting with, I should say, doesn't have the ability to tell you what's going on. As I say, it's a straw man argument. You can't bring it over to a human population and then with anesthesia, you can do some of these things that you do in terms of implantation, and then you actually have a communication with the patient. You do not have that in the animal population, and you never will. So I get it. I'm an animal advocate, and I'm offended by this because some things we should all be offended by, and this is one of them.
You know, I knew if I asked you that question, you'd really respond. You have pleased me greatly. Old Navy. It's another one.
Did you really just do that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Old Navy will close its San Francisco store on Market Street after nearly 3 decades. Yeah, this is
He was high and drunk.
No, stop.
No,
Sorry,
wait,
that was my elbow that just hit a button. I apologize.
This is a massive retail space, right? On one of the corners, big corners on Market Street.
Sure, it defines the vibe of Market Street. They've been there for how long? 30 years, did you say?
30 years, yeah. The lease is expiring. The doors close July 1st. The company said it is looking at other locations in downtown San Francisco that they say will serve the needs of the business and our customers better. So there you have it. Speaking of technology as well, as we just talked about Neuralink, but OpenAI's technology is showing up in dozens of software programs. Microsoft announced a long list of new developer software platforms, all powered by OpenAI tech. Chat GPT plugins are also being integrated into applications from Adobe, Canva, Redfin, and TripAdvisor, among others. AI is here. Wow. Wildfires. Oakland using a new system to detect wildfires before they spread. 10 sensors are being placed in threat areas to monitor air quality. They work with artificial intelligence to identify a fire up to 2 miles away. This alerts crews so they can jump into action even faster. It's welcome relief for neighbors in the Oakland area who survived the 1991 firestorm that burned thousands of homes and killed 25 people. This program is expected to run for 2 years to see if it works. So now we're using artificial intelligence to detect wildfires.
Wow, that's a really exciting technology. It really is.
Yeah. There is word that should California battle another heat wave this summer, more lights will stay on without the need to conserve. Officials are predicting that a low risk now we have of rolling blackouts, saying the state will likely have an energy surplus in September. That's thanks to more hydroelectric power after a very wet winter, raised reservoir levels. Other reasons include expanded battery storage and increased solar and wind power.
So that's really good news. It's a weird thing. They've wrapped good news in bad news, which is the bad news. The hots are getting hotter. The fire risk is, depending on who you talk to, maybe worse, but also maybe a bit better because of the rains. It's an interesting, there's more fuel because of the rain, but that fuel isn't as dry, because of the rain. So anyway, but more to the point on the rolling blackouts, they have now supplemental ways to take care of that grid and support it even during these hotter summer months that are coming. This will really be, I'm going to use the word interesting. Sadly, it'll be quite a ride, but I certainly hope we don't have the blackouts. People's lives literally depend on no blackout. So
remember, we had the blackouts last summer. They were even telling people don't plug in your electric vehicles from certain during certain hours of the day. It was pretty bad.
No,
and
they want to regulate consumption during certain hours of the day. That's absolutely right. And people are on life support. That's why I was saying people's lives are literally at stake. They're on all kinds of life support and medical instruments and machines that are essentially supporting people who desperately need that power all the time. Not all of them can afford some kind of backup power or some kind of reserve generator.
Yeah, this is very true. Let's talk a little bit about Fox News. I'm going to put a picture of Fox's up there, but I won't do it. Federal investigators are looking into a possible hack of Fox News's internal systems that leaked unaired footage of former anchor Tucker Carlson. The Tampa Bay Times reports the probe is related to an FBI search at media consultant and social media personality Tim Burke's house. The news comes weeks after several media outlets, including Vice, published unaired footage of Carlson making offensive comments about women. Burger King in Florida, since it's Friday and all, is being ordered to pay a whopper of a settlement.
I get it. A whopper.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I do a
Girl, you just woo.
A judge said the owner has to pay $8 million to a customer who slipped and fell at the restaurant.
Wow.
That's a big one. The man suffered lower back injuries, needed surgery after falling on a foreign substance near the restroom of a Burger King in Hollywood. The lawsuit accused the restaurant of negligence for failing to ensure the area and the floor of the business were free and clear of any hazards. This award, though, is one of the largest slip and fall verdicts in Florida history.
Good day, sir.
Wow.
$8 million.
Yeah, but you do get fries with it. Thank you. Thank you very much. See what
And
I
a
did?
lifetime supply of Whoppers and fries.
All right. There you go.
Yeah.
Man, that's a rough way to get it.
I'm telling you, this report is sponsored by the fine people at Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. And we are so thankful for their support. Did you know that you could get 10% off at Tenuta Vineyards? All you have to do, and it's super easy, is call them and say, smash it with your iron rod.
Wow,
You get
love
10% off your order at Tenuta Vineyards. You got to call Rich. It's 925-699-4576. And
Smash it with your iron rod.
And you get the 10% off of the Why Are You Yelling Red?
Very strong
Why are you
choice.
yelling?
I was drinking it just last night.
Were you? It's so good. And the Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio?
Oh, that's also some.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
That in the kind of the afternoon, the heat of the afternoon. It's perfect. Yeah.
And you also get 10% off of all their other 24.
Yeah, anything else you want to buy. Yeah,
That's
just
right.
say smash it. He'll give you 10% off the whole thing.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah.
Plus, they're super friendly. Their motto is give us 30 minutes and we will be friends for life. I will say their new website is tenudawinery.com. And you can go there and sign up for their newsletter, and they will send you the list of all their events out at the winery.
They have a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, all the time. TENUTA, TENUTAwinery.com.
I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, that is me.
Did you really just do that?
I did, and I'll tell you why I did it, because we want to get to the great one. On Fridays, he comes in, talks movies, and talks music, and talks television. Smash the like button, give us a thumbs up, smash it like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
And now, welcome him in. He comes and goes on a rainbow. He's the great Michael Snyder, everyone. Michael, hello, hello, hello.
The red-headed stepchild, beaten and then finally shunted into the corner of the show, the very last minutes of the week. Thanks a million.
Yeah, Amanda Aka, come on. You should feel lucky that you're here.
I'm grateful that I'm here, any day above ground, etc. I have to tell you, Mark, earlier this week, Tuesday night, in San Francisco's Mission, I had the great pleasure of attending one of the two California Nuggets 50th anniversary concerts. They have been produced to honor the 50-year anniversary of the double album Nuggets set on Elektra, which was compiled by rock historian, musician, and Patti Smith group band leader Lenny Kaye back in the day. And it's basically artifacts of the psychedelic era, garage rock, proto-punk rock. And there were lots of wonderful and talented San Francisco musicians, a few people from Los Angeles, doing classics like 96 Tears by Question Mark and the Mysterians, sung by Little Roger Clark of Little Roger and the Goosebumps. He nearly broke down in the middle of 96 Tears. It was very, very moving. And Penelope Houston of the Avengers and a great solo artist did a number. Members of the San Jose-based Count 5, a few still surviving members did Psychotic Reaction. But I really wanted to tip my hat, members of the Flamin' Groovies, Cyril Jordan, trading licks with Lenny Kaye on guitar during Gloria, the classic Shadows of Night song, where Lenny did a reading in the middle. It was like I went to a concert and a poetry slam broke out. It was really, but the last thing, the encore, Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys did Louie Louie, the Kingsman song, and he did the initial lyrics at first, and then he wrote and delivered hilarious and pointed lyrics about the crumbling of San Francisco's infrastructure, the corruption of the police and the DA's office, and a lovely attack on Mayor London Breed. And the place went wild. I had the best time. And I was just so happy I was
had a good time at the Black Cat.
Yeah.
I don't know about you and whether or not you know who Raphael Sadiq and Dwayne Wiggins are.
That's Mayor Breed, and she's always got the Tony people to support her. So despite the lashing out.
I had a good time at the Black Cat.
She did. Yeah, but I'm glad you had a good time, and it sounds like it was really quite where was that again?
It was at the Chapel in the Mission, maybe the best live venue in the Bay Area, in my book. Great sound. There was psychedelic lights. Lenny Kaye did annotation of every song that was performed by the various artists. And so many talented associates and friends of mine from the Bay Area got up on stage. Buddy Love, the guys from the Psychotic Pineapple and the Rubinoos were in the backup band, along with Peter Case of the Plymouth Souls, did a version of Liar by the Knickerbockers, blew the roof off the place. It was a great night on any front. It was just great. I loved it.
Wow.
It was great. I loved it.
That's terrific, Michael. Yeah, wow. I love to hear you so enthusiastic. And you get out there. You get out there in the music scene. You get there in the local culture. I love that, Michael Snyder.
I'm amongst the people, Mark. And in fact, I ran into a Mark Thompson Show listener who approached me and said, "Are you the culture blaster?" Apparently recognizing me from my avatar. Lovely woman.
What? That is unreal.
I'm no joke. Can't make this stuff up.
Look at that avatar, because a lot of people don't look like their avatar. Michael does. So you can take a look and you'll see him out there at these various venues taking in culture. He is the culture blaster. And so it's good that your avatar actually reflects the way you look. Bravo.
Well, unless I don't want to be attacked by irate listeners in public, but okay, bring it on. It's okay.
Yeah, what do you have for us today in the way of movie reviews?
All right. This is one I know that Kim's interested in. The Little Mermaid, debuting in movie theaters this weekend, is the latest live-action remake of a beloved Disney animated feature.
She wants to become, she's a fish, but she wants to become a person. Isn't that what it basically is?
Leave the synopsis to me, Mark. Anyway, it's the beloved Disney animated feature.
You do not know what you are talking about.
It's true. I do not know what I'm talking
about. A never-ending series of them that has seemingly accelerated in number of late. I mean, we just had this middling, totally unnecessary live-action Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney Plus a few weeks ago. At the end of last year, we had this clumsy live-action with CGI remake of Pinocchio. Not the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio, which was exhilarating and award-worthy. So redos of classics don't necessarily have to be pointless retread cash grabs, bringing us to the, quote, new, end quote, version of The Little Mermaid. I'm not saying that there's something fishy about it. I mean, Disney is yet again taking advantage of an intellectual property, which in the case of the studio's 1989 version of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale about a mermaid in a star-crossed
do we not have the mermaid art? Excuse me for a second. Kim, do we not have the mermaid art? I thought we had it. No? Can't get it up there too hard right now?
Yeah, anyway.
Don't worry about it. Okay.
In the 89 version, they brought together appealing animated characters, the adorable mermaid Ariel, her crustacean companion and guardian Sebastian, her finny friend Flounder, and the flamboyant tentacled villainous Ursula, and gave them snappy dialogue to speak and these lovely catchy show tunes to sing by composers Alan Menken and Howard Ashman. The result retold the story in kind of a fresh way, and now they've attempted to reproduce the magic using live actors on screen, enhanced by the latest achievements in computer animation, frankly dazzling, and the familiar songs Under the Sea, Kiss the Girl, and especially the gorgeous strains of Part of Your World. They still have the capacity to make people smile, hearts flutter, eyes moisten. The actors here do their best. Newcomer Halle Bailey has a winning smile and a beautiful soaring voice as Ariel, who sees and falls for bland but noble Prince Eric, heir to a mythical island kingdom that seems like a fantasy Jamaica, where the British colonial oppressors and Caribbean natives somehow live in harmony. I don't get it. Anyway, it's fitting that Eric is played by bland newcomer Jonah Hauer-King. Anyway, she's a mermaid. He's a land dweller, but she's willing to be a fish out of water because the heart wants what it wants. And, I don't know, mermaid empowerment. Anyway, Javier Bardem is Ariel's disapproving father, King Triton, Lord of the Ocean, and he brings his actorly gravitas and a kind of an underwater horn dog vibe to the party when we see he's fathered 7 mer daughters of various races presumably from across the seven seas. It is a veritable United Mermaids of Benetton. I mean, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
The movie is nothing if not inclusive. So Melissa McCarthy is appropriately evil and over the top as billowing Ursula, who wants to steal her brother Triton's throne and is going to use Ariel to get power. Oakland's own Daveed Diggs of Hamilton and Snowpiercer is a delight as the voice of the beleaguered Sebastian, who, to be frank, is kind of a creepy-looking CGI crab, and Awkwafina, voicing Scuttle, the clueless, good-hearted seagull, steals every scene the bird is in. In fact, the high point of the movie is her rendition of a very funny rap song, newly written for the movie by Lin-Manuel Miranda. But, and it's a big but, all the dazzling advances in CGI, and you'll believe a girl with a realistic-looking fishtail can swim like crazy, and all the acting and comedic skills of the cast, the computer-generated settings, the directing flair of movie musical maven Rob Marshall can't elevate the pedestrian script by David McGee that adds little new to what was already wonderfully and movingly done in cartoon form. I guess the message of harmony and unity is a good one, especially in today's climate. You know, humans and sea creatures need to learn to live together like all of the many-hued residents of the island. Anyway, wow. I don't know. I mean, Kim, I think you and the fam will enjoy it when it comes to video, or if you decide to go to the theater. It's only in theaters right now, but I bet you it's destined for Disney Plus. But, you know, there's not much new added to it other than, again, putting real humans in the middle of these CGI wonderlands.
And its length is of concern, Michael. How long is it?
Well, I'll be straight up with you, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
I mean, isn't that a little long for a Disney movie?
Well, you know, you got a lot of fish in the sea, buddy.
Tom says maven is a ding word, and he also tells me beleaguered is a ding word. Okay.
Did you like Robert De Niro's daddy, not so dearest in Meet the Parents? Well,
I did like that.
If you did, About My Father is Beat the Parents, as De Niro's hard-nosed Sicilian-born widower from Chicago faces off against his son's waspy potential in-laws on a July 4th weekend getaway to the rich folks' upscale Virginia estate. About My Father, I guess, is meant to be stand-up comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, his big movie breakthrough. I mean, he co-wrote the script, and he stars as Sebastian Maniscalco. Wait, is this biographical? No, this Sebastian is a successful hotel manager and the son of grumpy old working class hairstylist Salvo. And the real Sebastian's greatest achievement here was to convince double Oscar winner De Niro to sink to sitcom depths once more, this time as Salvo, who likes Sebastian's fiancée Ellie, but is repulsed by the idea of his son marrying into her well-to-do, smug, and borderline bizarre family. Leslie Bibb is cute and bubbly as Ellie. David Raish and Kim Cattrall are exactly what you'd expect as Ellie's parents. And of course, Ellie has to have two freaky, entitled brothers who are meant to be comedy gold. Nope. Anyway, Sebastian is likable and handles his part as well as can be expected, considering the tired culture clash and class war jokes, generally lowbrow humor, and the homilies about the importance of family. And then there's De Niro, slumming for a paycheck, but as he might say, Bobby gotta eat. Bobby gotta eat. About My Father is about 90 minutes long, and make that too long, it's in theaters.
Wow, he does not like it, Kim. He really doesn't like About My Father. Man.
Let's you know, I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we want to close out the movie section. It's never a great thing when the summation of a movie review is not terrible, considering the plot elements that parallel Guy Ritchie's recent, inspired by actual events, action drama, The Covenant, Kandahar, the tale of a CIA agent and his Afghan interpreter trying to get to safety in a Middle Eastern war zone, is kind of a misfire. It's another meh addition to the filmography of second-tier action hero Gerard Butler, whose wry grin and concerned scowl are trotted out once again, when necessary, as Tom Harris, a spy who undermined Iran's nuclear program. So Harris, an MI6 agent on loan to the CIA, is accompanied by his good guy Muslim translator, and they're on the run from a variety of enemies trying to capture the agent and deliver him to the Iranian military types who want his head. The interpreter seeking justice for his son, who was killed by an Afghan warlord, would be collateral damage if captured along with the not-so-undercover operative. As Butler's latest formula actioner, Kandahar, pales next to this year's previous one. This boy is cranking them out. Plane, I loved Plane, a preposterous good time, pitting Butler's resourceful pilot character against an island full of terrorists after a lightning storm forces an emergency landing. You know, Kandahar, somewhat directed by Rick Roman Wall, is pedestrian. Firefights, desert chases, explosions, and all that aside, especially by comparison to Plane, and certainly when compared to Ritchie's The Covenant, both of which I recommend over this shrug-worthy effort. Kandahar is in theaters.
Wow, doesn't really like Kandahar.
I wish I had.
We can take a fourth as your big finish.
Well, you know what? Let's briefly talk about a streaming show that started a few weeks back that I absolutely am addicted to and caught up in. It's called Silo, and it's on Apple TV, and it's a sci-fi dystopian situation about a sector of humanity that are living below ground in a silo, you know, the silo of the title, which is about, 150 stories in size, going down into the depths of the Earth's crust, I suppose. No one's allowed to go outdoors. They've been stuck in the silo for over 100 years, and they're told, all the people that live there are told that it's deadly outside the silo. And in fact, if you ask to go out of the silo, you're breaking the law, and they kick you out to fend for yourself. Rebecca Ferguson is in the cast. David Oyelowo is in the cast. Believe it or not, Rashida Jones, you know her from The Office, is in the cast. And this is a serious and well-made science fiction series on Apple Plus TV, and I do recommend it. Silo, caught up.
Wow.
It's episode 5.
I'm excited. I want to check that out. I mean, I don't like that feel-good stuff, the Ted Lasso Apple TV stuff.
Come on.
And give me a grim dystopian story out of science fiction. And I guess I have it in Silo. He likes it. He also likes, actually, he just likes Silo.
It's a mediocre weekend at the movies, mediocre Memorial Day weekend.
Kandahar, he feels as though Gerard Butler, I should say, he has, in this period during which he's cranked out some real winners, has not cranked out a winner with Kandahar. About My Father, the De Niro Maniscalco number. De Niro getting a paycheck. Somebody said, and it was, I thought, an appropriate comment, that De Niro is 75 years old and has a new baby and needs the money. There's Emma. I know he needs the money, but...
Hey, Bobby got to eat. Bobby got to eat.
He may want to just get out of the house with a new baby. He says, miss it. The Little Mermaid is the Disney magic come to the big screen. It's a remake, and Michael just feels as though it misses. Did you feel the original Little Mermaid was better, huh?
I loved the original Little Mermaid, and maybe this pales by comparison. The way, Plane is a much better Butler movie than, Kandahar. There are things to enjoy in this. Like Awkwafina is very, very funny, but it all seems a little flat. We've been here before. This is such a familiar story. If you can't bring something really new and exciting, other than a talented newcomer like Halle Bailey, why bother?
Yeah. And so it goes. Let's go over to Apple TV and look at Silo for a while. Michael, we love it. We wish you and thank you for the rock and roll, the music, the pastiche of the music scene that you started with. It was very cool. And congratulations on being recognized.
This is like ABBA. You're thanking me for the music.
Yeah, I am thanking you for the music, Michael. You can find Michael in the Marina Times. Check him out there. You can find him here on Fridays. If you have any other questions for the witness, I'll detain him. Otherwise, I am going to excuse him. Kim,
No,
are we
thank
done
you
with
for
Michael?
the Little Mermaid review. I appreciate that. I'm going to have to watch it anyway.
By
you
all
know.
means, Kim. By all means, Kim. I don't think it's a waste of time particularly. It just, like I said, the other one is the live action thing. You know, it has been this Disney, branding fallback that they've been doing over and over again. You know, the paucity of creativity in Hollywood is never to be underestimated.
Paucity is definitely a ding word, and Tom says pastiche is a ding word. So there you go. You go out on a couple of dings. You come and go on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael. Happy weekend. Wow. We've done so much today. It's really remarkable.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Sadly, we must finish up, but I want to recognize some of the people who have contributed here on YouTube. Many of you, though, before I get to my YouTube people, many of you do help us stay alive. We're a crowdfunded show, and you go to themarkthompsonshow.com. There are click-throughs to Patreon and PayPal. All of you who click through to Patreon and PayPal and become part of our community, monthly subscribers, monthly supporters, I should say. Not subscribers, but supporters. When you do it, the show is free in a way, but it's only free because we stay on the air at the pleasure and because of the support of the people on Patreon and PayPal. You're recognized at the end of the show. That's how we put you on the crawl every single day. And we update that regularly. So again, it's themarkthompsonshow.com. Click the Patreon PayPal link to join the community and be a member of that supporting community. Thank you for doing just that. Now, there are people who also pitch in on YouTube. Let's give them a shout. Joe, for the holiday, $50.
Big shout out.
Well,
So nice.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I am not going to. But between Kevin Hobbs and Joe,
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
and I believe we had a couple of other pretty big,
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
just might need a minute. Thank you, Joe. Kevin Hobbs is another 3333. Big
shout out.
Thank you so much, Joe, Kevin Hobbs, and who else? Gail was another one. That was it.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
Love Friday, Fabulous Florida. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Gail Guthrie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gail. Kathleen Bryan, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Kathleen Bryant, might I say thank you so much for 1999.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Deborah B., thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Edward Lee, great cat story. I tried to tell a little bit of it on the air again today. Thank you for a couple of bucks, Edward. And I will say...
Did you really just do that?
I did. I really did do it. And I want to do something today as I finish. Everyone who contributed through Super Stickers and Super Chats today, I want you all to take a moment and just receive. You need to do nothing, but in the moment, receive.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
Exactly. You've received it, and now go and live your best life. Now,
did you really just do that?
Here is what I'm going to tell you about our show. We are dark for Memorial Day. And I know, if you need a minute, we are dark for Memorial Day, but that doesn't mean that we won't be back here on Tuesday. Tuesday, Kim will be here. And all the magic of Kim. Finally, no co-pilot. She's the pilot on Tuesday.
I knew I could get rid of you sooner or later.
And Shadow will visit her next week. We'll
That's
visit
right.
both of us next week. We also have some other stuff planned, but among those things, Shadow. Everybody have a great weekend, whatever you're doing. I wish you a quiet weekend or a thrilling weekend, if that's more your vibe.
Did you really just do that?
Yeah. I've had fun today. We've also gotten some good information today. We'll break out the Avila Shore conversation as a separate video. We'll do the Florida conversation as a separate video. Please share our show if you can, and have a great weekend, everyone.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Kim, I adore you.
Bye-bye.
Did you really just do that?
Until next week, bye-bye.